A younger man happened to go to his younger brother's wedding. And while at the wedding, he felt sad because he hadn't had his own wedding. He's never been married. But his younger brother was already beating him to the punch. And while at the wedding, I ran into an old man who kind of has a reputation of being nice and mean. And when the old man sees the young man, he goes up to him and smirks and says, "When's your turn?" The old man laughs and walks away. The man feels more sad because of his fragile emotional state, and he remembers the comment. A week later, the young man is at a funeral, and he sees the old man there. Seeing his chance, he walks up and said, "When's your turn?" This morning, I'm excited to share with you because as we've been going through the verse technically of Philippians chapter 4, verse 8, and we've been going and talking about attitude, and the big thing that we've been looking at is thinking about specific areas of our attitude. And over the last couple of weeks, Pastor Barry and others have shared about things like thinking about what is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure. Things that are good things to think about and to dwell on. And this morning, we're going to be talking about the phrase, what is admirable? Think about what is admirable. And I want to read to you, if you could go back one slide, what it actually says. It says, "Finally, brothers, whatever is true, whatever is honorable, whatever is just, whatever is pure, whatever is lovely, whatever is commendable, if there is in any excellence, if there is anything worthy of praise, think about these things." Finally, brothers and sisters, think about whatever is admirable. And I spent some time kind of doing what, sitting under Barry's tutelage of learning how to do word studies, went to Bible college, have learned all about it. And so I was like, hey, you know what, that word admirable, it's not like a word you use in common vernacular. At least I don't, because I talk like a junior higher. And when it comes to the word admirable, I was like, okay, well, I'm going to do like the word study, and I'm going to start with all the different translations and kind of see what everyone else translated. The NIV says admirable. The ESV says commendable. That's another good positive word. The NASB, these are all different Bible translations, says good repute. The ASV, the American Standard Version, says good report. I'm like, oh, that's cool. These are all like very kind of common-y words that go with each other. And I was like, oh, I'm going to get real smart. I'm going to go look up the Greek, and I'm going to learn something new, and it's going to be awesome and like insightful. And the Greek word for it is this word, ephemos. My Greek is terrible. I passed the class. I got a B-, so like that's great. And ephemos actually, it actually means this. It means sounds good. And I was just like, oh, cool. So I'm learning what now? As I'm spending lots of time doing a word study, and like I'm going to get something from this. And I started to think about it, and I was like, okay, well, maybe this word is used elsewhere. In the Bible, in the New Testament that's written in Greek, this word is used, or the root word of it, for that matter, it's used one time and one time only, and that's right here. And so I'm like, cool. Let's see what, I got a bunch of books from Bible college. I started blowing the dust off and started looking, and nope, nothing, not learning anything new, not a gigantic new insight, like, oh, cool, I'm learning so much, and I'm not learning a whole lot of anything that, like, a cool new discovery to kind of inform you guys with. And I was like, all right. So it really just means admirable, good report, good this, that, all right. That's fine. Not a big deal. I learned one thing. I positively wasted a bunch of time. And I wouldn't say it was a waste, because it's really cool when you actually realize that these words from over 2,000 years ago get translated by hundreds and hundreds of scholars, and they come up with one translation, and the NIV uses a bunch of people to go, oh, let's go with the word admirable here. It's like, oh, okay, cool. Well, I happen to know a guy who's decided with himself about over 20 years ago that he was going to translate the Bible into common vernacular. The guy's name is Eugene Peterson. One of my claims to being, a Christian Bible believing, hey, I went to a Bible college, got a degree, is I met two famous Christian authors. And a lot of my college friends freak out about it. I don't really care. To me, I'd be more freaking out if I met some of these Niner guys or Raider guys or this or that. Whereas these guys are like, oh, you got to meet Jack Hayford. Anybody know who Jack Hayford is? excuse me. The two claims of fame is I met Jack Hayford. He's an author. He wrote a song, and I just happened to be giving him directions to move from our Bible college to another location of the conference, and I went to give him directions. He thought I was going in for a hug, I guess, so he awkwardly hugged me, and the directions are up here, and all my friends saw it and laughed at me. Those are the two Christian authors. The other person that I ran into was Eugene Peterson. During my Bible college days, I needed some extra credit, so I went to an end times lecture, an eschatology lecture, and Eugene Peterson wasn't giving the lecture, thankfully. He was sitting in the front row, sleep and snoring, and I just loved that about him. Even he was bored with what was going on. And this is the guy, I'm not joking, who spent over 20 years translating the Bible from 1993 until it was finally full version published in 2002. It's called the Message Bible. It helps. I wouldn't say, hey, all of you guys should read it each and every day, but it gave me some insight because Eugene happens to translate it like this. This is this is Philippians 4 and 8 here. Summing it all up, friends, I say to you, do best by filling your minds and meditating on things true, noble, reputable, authentic, compelling, gracious, the best, not the worst. And I really like that word, reputable. So much so that I personally would like to ask the question and take it and put it into our context. And we need to think about our reputation. We need to think about our reputation. I don't know about you, but I think it's a great thing to have a good reputation. It's a great thing to be someone who is considered, oh, that guy's awesome. That guy's great. That guy is there for me when I need it. And a reputation is something that can be positive and or negative. There was this young man who happened to go to a Catholic church, and he went into his confessional, and he walked in and he said, "Bless me, Father, for I've sinned. I've been with a loose girl." The priest asked, "Is that you, little Joey Picano?" "Yes, it is, Father, it is." "And who was the girl you were with?" "I can't tell you, Father. I don't want to ruin her reputation." "Well, Joey, I'm sure I'm going to find out sooner or later, so you might as well tell me. Was it Tina?" "Can't say." "Was it Teresa?" "No, I'll never tell." "Was it Nina?" "Sorry, I can't name her, Father." "Was it Kathy?" "My lips are sealed." "Was it Rosa?" "Please, Father, I'm not going to tell you." The priest sighs in frustration. "You're very tight-lipped, and I admire that. But you've sinned, and you have to atone. You can't be an altar boy now for 4 months. Now go and behave yourself." Joey walks out to his pew. His friend Franco slides over and whispers, "What'd you get?" He goes, 4-month vacation and 5 good leads. Because reputation can be good or bad. Just that simple. Just that simple. And I'm telling you, it's important. It is so important. The Bible mentions about in Ecclesiastes and Proverbs 22. Ecclesiastes 7 and Proverbs 22. A good name is better than fine perfume. A good name is more desirable than great riches. A good name, having that reputation, a good reputation is so important. Think about it in your work life. If you happen to have a job in which you're interacting with them, and hopefully they're going to have a positive response. When I go, "Oh, that person's great. I like working with them. I like talking to them. They work hard. They get their job done." Think about it if you're in Pastor Barry's shoes, and he happened to have, as a counselor, a bad reputation. It'd be really hard for him to have a business as a counselor. Think about it in your situation, whatever the case may be. Your reputation sometimes could be what makes or breaks the business life that you have. It can. Now, what's interesting is I deal a lot with a lot of millennials and a lot of young people. Millennials, we kind of have I'm right at that cusp of a millennial, not a millennial. Millennials kind of have a bad rep of whining a lot, crying, woe is me, my life stinks, trying to get out of work, can be kind of lazy, all of those things. But when you encounter them and you have a negative connotation towards them, or even worse, when you want to have a confrontation, sometimes millennials just kind of cower. They don't like that. They don't talk about it. They tend to fall back. And one of the biggest reasons why is because they don't want to have negative experiences. Everything with young people these days is all about experience. It's got to be a good experience, good this, that. And instead of actually having the confrontation, which I kind of hate that they can't do that, they tend to whine about you behind your back. They tend to spend some time, writing on Yelp, getting on social media, putting you on blast, whatever the case may be. And young people do that, and what they're doing by all of this is damaging your reputation. There's literally, have you guys heard of the website Yelp? There's literally a website where you complain or recommend a certain service, whether it's a restaurant, a mailing service, you name it, any and everything. And honestly, it was funny. I was like, I wonder if Pastor Barry has a Yelp page. He doesn't, so that's good. So good for you. Good or bad. No one's talking good or bad about him. And the other thing is that churches have them. Churches actually have them. And people get on there and they air their grievances, why Living Hope's the worst. And other people get on there and go, why Living Hope's the best. And people do this all the time, and it's a reputation. And I've often wondered whether or not those reputations of what Living Hope is helps or diminishes our growth as a church. And it's something to think about. And reputation can be gigantic and huge. Being that I work with a lot of young people, I also get asked to write letters of recommendation, and I get the constant text. Oh man, it's at least once a week, if not once a month. Hey, can I put you down for a reference for a job? A lot of high schoolers, they need first jobs, so they need good references. And what's so funny is not everybody ever calls me. I go, yeah, sure, absolutely. I also warn the high schoolers, I'm going to be honest, when they call. And when people call, I have to be honest, because part of my reputation is that seal of approval. That, hey, I'm actually recommending something good, whether it's a worker, whether it's a scholarship, whether I'm just talking with you guys and I go, hey, you should really check out this book or this movie or listen to this band. I want my recommendations to mean something. If my reputation is diminished, you're not going to listen to what I have to say. You go, oh yeah, Josh is recommending that? Then I don't want to deal with it. It happens. It happens. Now, what if Pastor Barry's reputation happened to be, he's a good listener, but he's terrible at advice? That just would not work. If his reputation out in the community was, oh yeah, he'll listen to you, you'll pay him your money, and then he'll give you the worst advice ever. We play this game in a junior high and high school youth group called Problem Solution. We take a problem, and you write it down on one side of the paper, and you take the solution, such as, I forgot my toothbrush. We normally play at summer camp, winter camp, whatever, and we rip it apart, and the solution is, buy a new one. Well, we rip them apart, and then we scatter them up, and then someone will read a problem, and then someone will read the solution. Well, that would kind of be what Pastor Barry would be like if he's giving bad advice. You walk in and go, he walks in and go, my marriage is in shambles. Like, oh yeah, you should really get your knee checked. That's not good advice. It has nothing to do with it. And if his reputation became that, it would just destroy his business. And I want you to think about that, not only in your reputation in your business life, as the example here, sure, but as your personal life, who you are as a friend, a family member, a loved one, and then your spiritual life as well. If your reputation is, I'm kind of flaky with God, I hang out with him, every 2 Sundays when the Niners aren't winning, things like that. And your reputation can be diminished spiritually as well. And we need to think about those situations. Now, just so happens that if the reputation is good, it may be Barry's reputation as a counselor is he gives good advice, but his values are lacking because he's compromising his values. That's also going to destroy his reputation. Listen, we need to be cautious in thinking about what is admirable in what our reputation is, but not at the cost of our values. And what I mean by values is I'm really talking about your belief system. The biggest problem that I tend to see with the global United States church, I call it the salad bar church. They like to pick and choose the things they want to believe. The Bible isn't 100% the inspired word of God. We like when Jesus said this, but we don't acknowledge that Jesus ever said this and told us to do that. Salad bar. And the church struggles with that. The church struggles with that. And we can't compromise our values as churchgoers, as a church body, and as people who go out into the world and interact and rub shoulders with people that don't know God yet. And we need to think about our values in light of the fact that, we need to think about our reputation in light of the fact that we actually have values. And those values were being held to a higher standard most of the time than what the world is doing and saying. Revelation 3 talks about being lukewarm. Being lukewarm. And if you're going to have a reputation, of lacking, you're a good person, but you're lacking morals and values, you're going to be kind of considered as lukewarm. And in Revelation 3, it says, "You're neither hot nor cold, so I spit you out of my mouth." It's a pretty bold statement. And God going, nope, I will. Essentially, the word there, fun word study there, is actually vomit you out of my mouth. And once your reputation has nothing to do with values, then it's diminished. Who even cares? I don't care if your reputation doesn't go along with my morals and what I value. I'm not talking about majoring in the minors. I don't mean like, if your reputation, we have different beliefs when it comes to the end times, or we have different beliefs when it comes to predestination or free will, or we have different beliefs on whether or not dogs go to heaven and cats go to hell. That's majoring in the minors. I don't care about that. I'm talking about the John 3:16 stuff, that God so loved the world. The things that end up impacting our lives for a while. The value of family over work. Family time's more important than work time. Don't get me wrong, work's important. You got to do it. Puts the roof over your head. But family time being more important over work, it's something that I value. And I hope that that's part of my reputation. Well, this last Sunday, I was in the donut room. We were cleaning up. We were going to have a meeting after church. And I got on my phone real quick to see what's going on, because everyone's addicted to their phone, me too. I got on my phone, and I happened to see that there was a terrible helicopter accident. One of my childhood heroes. Excuse me, I'm not going to do this. I grew up watching the Lakers play basketball. And in the 2000s, my friends loved to add to the rivalry of the Lakers and the Kings. It was a lot of fun. I got purple toilet paper on my car once, thanks to the Kings, and big old notes the day I got my driver's license. Same thing happened. Actually happened to be the pastor's wife, Joe Clancy. Thanks a lot. And I absolutely love basketball. And so when I heard the news that Kobe Bryant passed away in a helicopter accident, I was a little shook by it, because of someone that I admired, like I said, as a person who played a game. And it's a game. I get it, it's a game. I understand. I liked watching him play. He was always tough on the court, and he had a reputation for a couple of things while he played the game of basketball. They called it the Mamba mentality, where he worked harder than anyone else in the gym. He might not even been the best basketball player that night, but because he worked harder, he played better. And with that reputation, then began to change. The moment he retired, his reputation completely changed. He went from being a guy who was all about the game and would do anything for the game. He'd play 15 overtimes if it meant that he was going to win the NBA championship. He would work harder than anyone. He would probably, to a certain extent, had a little bit tough time in his family life when he was a player of the game. to the point where there are issues on and off the court that aren't the greatest of reputations. And I don't need to go into that, but I do have to say this. When he stopped playing basketball, he changed his values. Check this out. If you could, Pat.
You're
and dim the
coaching
lights.
your
Thank you.
daughter's team.
I am. They're doing well, though. I mean, we've been playing for like a year and a half.
What's their record?
They don't have seasons. It's crazy. They just have tournaments like every weekend.
I see. And if they don't win the tournaments, do they have to sleep in the yard or anything like that? Or?
No food for a week.
Yeah. Because if anyone would think like that, I would think it would be the Mamba mentality.
We're just running for 2 hours straight in practice. No water breaks, nothing. Push-ups and sit-ups all day.
How serious do you get? Like, are you guys breaking down game film? What's going on?
Not yet, but we will.
You will, okay.
We absolutely will. You know, what we try to do is we try to teach the kids what excellence looks like, right? And it's not that, you know, some of them may want to play in the WNBA, some of them may not.
Right.
But we try to give them a foundation of the amount of work and preparation that it takes to be excellent in whatever it is that you choose to do, right? So we're here playing basketball, we're going to focus on the details. We're going to learn the basics, we're going to learn the fundamentals. We're going to do those things over and over. And hopefully it's something that they can apply to other areas in their life.
Do you think your daughter might want to play in the WNBA?
She does, for sure.
She does?
I mean, this kid, man.
Wouldn't that be great?
Dude, man, I'm telling you. The best thing that happens is when we go out and fans will come up to me and she'll be standing next to me and they'll be like, hey, you gotta have a boy. UNV gotta have a boy, man. You have somebody carry on the tradition, the legacy. She's like, oh, I got this. You know, boy, for that, I got you. Like, that's right. Yes, you do. You got this.
How old are the kids now?
15, 12, and our little one, Bianca, will be 2 in December.
Do you guys have Halloween costumes figured out?
They got mine figured out. I never know what the heck's going on. They just tell me, this is what you're wearing. I'm
is
like,
that
all
right?
Cool, I'm putting this on.
And will you trick or treat or what?
No, we go trick or treating every Halloween.
So you're in a costume. What were you last year?
I'm in a costume. Last year we were a league of their own, so I was the Black Tom Hanks.
Crying in baseball?
And what's so amazing and interesting, a guy decides, you know what, I'm done playing the sport that I love. And he could have kept playing. He was good. He could have figured it out. He was injured, sure, but I mean, I saw Michael Jordan do it a bunch of times. He could have figured it out. But he decided, you know what, my values and my reputation are going to completely change. If you go on the internet and look up Kobe Bryant and his daughter, it's thousands of videos of him talking about how awesome she was. And he changed his reputation of being a sports guy who lived in the gym to being a father who cared deeply for his kids. And I sit here and I think about how that could be the case. If there's something going on in your values and your reputation that needs changing, it can be done. It can be done. Because it is very important to understand and know that your reputation actually means something and carries something along with those values. His values changed. He could have kept playing. He went from winning championships and hanging banners and all the accolades and all of that stuff to dressing up like Tom Hanks and going trick-or-treating with his kids. All maintaining his reputation, too, of still making his daughters work the hardest in the gym. The Bible talks about this in Philippians 4, verse 5. It's let your gentleness be evident to all. Let your gentleness be evident to all. And that one can tend to be kind of tough, specifically for the male gender in this room, you know, the softy side. It's not, you know, I tend to have a tougher exterior, unless I'm a big baby and talking about other things. And in this situation, let your gentleness be evident to all. That has a lot to do with our reputation and your values. And I personally, one of the values that I'd like to share that it's just not something that I tend to do, is I don't know if you guys know this about me or not, but I've kind of made it my own personal stance to never ever, and I've never have ever been drunk before. It's just a value that I personally hold. Alcohol is not a vice that really strongholds on me, but the reason why I made that decision when I was 14 years old is I saw people in my life and saw the damage that even a little alcohol would do to people. And so it's just not something I really enjoy. I don't really like the taste of it because I drank too much soda as a kid, I'm pretty sure. But it's just something that I personally value, that I hold true to, and that I'm hopefully that reputation is being seen as, hey, he's a fun guy and he doesn't have to have alcohol to do it. That lie is prevalent in anyone under the age of 40. I don't know if you're older than 40. I don't know if that's still the truth. But at least, man, I hang out with young people all the time, and they're like, oh, you don't drink at all? I'm like, yeah, like, I never get drunk, if that's what you mean. And they're just astonished by that. They're like, oh, yeah, but it's so much fun to do that. I'm like, yeah, but it leads to what? At what cost? And it's something that I personally, when it comes to my values, have always said, I want that to be a part of my reputation. And I know that there's other things that I do absolutely struggle with and that I need to personally work on when it comes to my reputation, when it comes to striving to be better. Because at the end of the day, we need to strive to be admirable. We do. It's one thing to think about, but it's another thing to actually put it into practice and to work on. Now, it's interesting. The hardest part when it comes to this idea of reputation that I struggle with is this. I don't care what people think about me. I genuinely, I like, if there's a scale of do you care or you care too much, I'm on this side. I don't care what you think about me because you can judge me all you want. I'm awesome, you're wrong. And frankly, the Bible made it clear when it said this, Matthew chapter 5. It says, in the same way, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. And we need to be striving to be admirable, to let our light shine. We need to have that good rapport. Similar to how hard you work, how hard you study, when you put in the time, and you need to do the same thing with our reputation. Think back to high school. If you happen to be popular or well-liked, it's probably because of your reputation. Probably because you decided you were going to compromise your values a little bit. Probably because you spent too much time engaging in the sinful side of our lives. Most popular kids in high school, if you're on that popularity side of high school, they tend to struggle with always being popular, with always caring what people think, doing something so that they can maintain their popularity. One of the many, many, many reasons why me and my wife make such a good team is I'm over here, I don't care. She's over here, she cares what people think. I have a perfect example of this. After we get through with the first, the one big argument that happens more than any other argument is where are we going to get food? Whether it's after church or it's just, I don't know what it is. Where do you want to eat? Where do you want to eat? It's like the biggest argument in our marriage. But after we finally decided, and say we're sitting at the drive-thru, this is a perfect example of me just not caring. I'm a complete jerk, and I'm sorry if you've ever worked the drive-thru having to serve me. I'm a complete jerk to the drive-thru workers. I'm normally a nice guy. I tend to be nice to most of you guys. I'm sure you would go, oh, that's really weird to hear this. But I'm confessing to you, I don't know what it is. I either step on my wife's toes while she's ordering. I think the person's talking too much. I just kind of cut them off. I'm pointing to the point like, no, please, this is what I want. Okay, thank you. And she, my wife, tends to call me out on being passive-aggressive on it. And hopefully, after our discussion, I tend to hopefully correct myself by the time that I get to the front of the drive-thru window and paying. Because I do feel bad. It's something that I know that I need to work on because I'm interacting with people that I have no idea what their day is like. And I could have just made their day way worse, or I could make their day a lot better. And frankly, I've lately been making them a whole lot worse. And I need to be on this side. And I need to have that reputation that when they see that car, what's funny is maybe because I eat out too much, there are people in Oakdale that know what I'm going to order, what's going to happen, all because I'm driving in and they're like, oh, there's that car again. Especially when you drive an 84 piece of junk truck like mine. It's very recognizable, and they're like, oh, it's that guy. So I probably have somewhat of a reputation, and I need to recover and work on. And I need to strive to be admirable in all of those interactions. in all of those interactions. Now, my wife, on the other hand, love her to death. She's not in here, so she can't get mad at me for this, but she'll listen to it later. She tends to care a lot what people think. And that too can be a fault. That too could be a pretty big fault. If your reputation is your everything, that's not good. Because you're going to end up being a doormat, because you'll just say yes to everything, trying to please everyone. We need to strive to be admirable, not strive to be a doormat. Because regardless of which way you fall on the scale, either my side or her side, you need to remember that we need to be maintaining our values. Otherwise, your reputation will crumble, and when that happens, the world's just going to run over you. It's going to run over you. I know it's a big deal to recover from a bad reputation, and I'm sure it takes work. But it's something that you need to strive to do. The Bible just talked about we need to think about those things that are admirable. So our application today is this. Your reputation is something to think about. Think about your reputation. And if you're like, hey, I don't know what my reputation is, figure out what it is. How do you do that? Talk to people. One of the most humbling experiences I've ever had was when I was in high school during a Bible study. The pastor said, hey, I want you to get with a partner. We break up into groups, get with a partner. And he goes, all right, I want you to take a note card. I want you to write 3 nice things about the person you're looking at and when you paired off, and then write 1 negative thing that they need to work on. And what he was really saying is, hey, write down what you kind of know about them. What's their reputation? What do they value? What's important to them? What's admirable about them? So if you don't know what your reputation is, figure it out. Ask someone. Ask God first. That'd be a good insight to hear. But then 2, ask someone you know and trust, who kind of knows you, knows what you're about. The second thing that we could apply to is do not compromise your value for your reputation. Don't let the world dictate how you live your life and what you're going to say, do, and respond. Be in the world, not of the world. If you don't know what you value, again, ask someone who can help you out with that. And the third thing is to strive to be admirable. Strive to be admirable. That looks and feels in so many different ways, and it opens a whole bigger can of worms. I understand. I understand that it's not the easiest. It's not the easiest to do the right thing, especially when no one's looking. But man, it's more rewarding. Man, it's more rewarding. Would you pray with me? God, we love you. We thank you for today. We thank you for this word in Philippians 4, verse 8. And may we think about our reputation. May we not compromise the values that we do hold true and not major in the minors. And may we strive to be admirable. And what that looks like and how we live, breathe, move, and act has a lot to do with our relationship with you. So please help us. Please help Living Hope and its congregation to not only carry a great reputation that's full of your love, but also never compromising in your word and in your truth. You are so good, God. We thank you and praise you. In your name we pray. Amen.